half boy, half car, boy car, mayor of Philadelphia. Shazam! Step aside, Aquaman. DC's got a brand new movie and it's #1 now. You did good, and Patrick Wilson, I mean, hey man, you don't have to worry. You're still the #1 villain. Instead of just giving you a straight up review of Shazam and letting you know how wild it is and how much you need to see this movie, I'm going to take a different approach. I'm going to let you know what this movie did. And what it did is it took the DC theme that they've been building all the way back since Man of Steel, and it has finally perfected the formula. DC heroes thus far, for the most part, have all shared a common trait. They do not want to be heroes. They are heroes because they have to be, or it is otherwise the right thing to do, or circumstances outside of their control dictated that they must be. For example, with Superman, it is his moral code, and it is what both of his fathers wanted. He is the shining beacon, the bridge between man and God, etc., etc. And with that random grab bag of superpowers, he decided that the right thing to do would be to help people. Batman was just a rich boy, and then all of a sudden, Allie yada yada Martha, what's he gotta do? Clean up the streets of Gotham so that can never happen again. Aquaman, oh, I don't want to be a hero, I just want to get drunk or whatever, but I'm gonna be a king, and you know the story, that one just came out. The Flash, they haven't really fleshed out enough to say one way or the other, and then Cyborg, Cyborg got molested by a mother box, so he's just kind of stuck. Wonder Woman's almost a combo breaker. But she didn't want to be a hero. She just wanted to be an Amazon the same as everyone else. She didn't want to stick out. She didn't want to be a god killer. When she found out that Ares had returned, she thought that just as an Amazon is what they were all meant to do, and only stepped up to be a hero when everyone else chickened out. And now we have Billy Batson. Sweet, sweet cinnamon roll Billy Batson, who we do not deserve, but we do need right now. Billy Batson, much like all these other heroes, outright denied power when it was offered to him. He didn't want it because he didn't believe he deserved it. And that is, yada yada, exactly why he deserved it. See Aquaman. But Billy embodies what DC's been trying to instill in all of their heroes. A drive to protect those who matter to them. A drive to keep their families whole. That's another theme you could add to the list for DC. Complicated relationships with mothers. You have got the Marthas. You've got Wonder Woman and Hippolyta. Barry Allen has a very odd relationship with his mother. Cyborg doesn't really count. He's a bit of a combo breaker. And then you've got Billy, who just wants to be loved, man. Oof, I don't know how I forgot the complicated thing of Queen Atlanta, but throw that in there as complicated mommy issues. That's the beauty of what this movie portrays. DC movies are not about Endgame. They're not about the most ambitious such and such in the history of time. They are supposed to be gods amongst men trying to do what is right on the smallest scale possible, and then larger scale if need be. And what this movie does, it takes a little bit of a pull behind the curtain. Everybody wants to know what it would be like if they were a superhero. It's one of the top things you could hear people talking or wondering about these days, is if you had superpowers, what would they be? And this doesn't necessarily show you that, but it does let you know what it would be like if a normal person who wasn't blessed by the gods or what have you got all of the superpowers at once. And even more so than that, they try and make it be figured out by somebody that's still going through puberty. What I think is interesting about these DC movies is as they keep on going, with the solo film specifically that is, the scope keeps on getting smaller and smaller and smaller. First, you had Superman, and the world was being terraformed, and oh no, that's going to be a shit show. And then after that, we jump, I believe, all the way to Wonder Woman, which was Ares is going to lead to a world war, and while he's not going to change the entirety of the world, it could change the landscape as we know it, societally speaking. Then we come into Aquaman. Okay, well, the Atlanteans are going to try and have a war with the surface, but now there's defined sides, and it's not necessarily a global catastrophe. It theoretically could be, but it's still being scaled down in my opinion. And now we come to Shazam, where all of the damage is almost localized to Philadelphia. What this reverse power scaling is doing is it is making room for exactly what I had been hoping superheroes movies would be doing. Superhero movies keep on trying to up the ante. They keep on trying to be bigger than the one that came before it, and they keep on sacrificing plot, character development, and heart to do so. But When you take the world and you make it smaller, when you take the stakes and you make them more personal, you're not saving the world, you're saving your family, for example. That is what brings the heart out. That is what puts the hero in superhero. It's the idea that got started in Man of Steel. Whether or not you liked that movie, that is what they were going for with Clark Kent. And it's been perfected at this point in time. And something else that is beautiful, and something that Shazam very much accentuates throughout the entire movie, is that heroes can be flawed. They can make poor decisions. Billy makes multiple poor decisions throughout the movie. There are multiple times where he is not a hero in any capacity, and he is just a jerk. That is something that you don't see so much in recent years with superheroes. We've been so busy making them idealistic puppets, and not in the way that Superman's idealistic and stands by his values. More in the robotic, oh, well, there needs to be a conflict, so I'm going to be steadfast in these beliefs so that I could argue with someone else kind of idealistic. Being able to have these flaws while still being able to overcome them is what gives a very human element in it. It's one of the most basic properties that humans love to pride ourselves on, is the ability to overcome adversity and great odds. But more importantly, these odds are being overcome from the inside. Nobody is simply out punching their problems. They're taking moments from their past or the things that drive them, experiences in their life, and building upon that, drawing strength from that, and not being afraid to let their flaws become their strengths. That is the way you write an interesting character. And it seems like they're on a roll right now when it comes to making characters that feel very human, even though by very nature of the way their powers work, they could not possibly be further from that. Maybe the most important thing that this movie perfected was that it is funny, and I would definitely classify it as comedic in more than one scene. But when things need to be heavy, when there needs to be emotional weight, it is not funny. It's not like at the end of Thor Ragnarok when it's like, oh well, I guess your planet got blown up, mate, ha 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 ha. No, when you need to feel it, you feel it. And the fact that they allow that lets the movie be greater than it was. And what they did better than Aquaman, as much as it pains me to say, when Aquaman had emotional moments, they were not afraid to be ham-fisted and beat you over the head with like, this is supposed to be emotional. That movie was written like a comic book. And because of that, some of the dialogue really suffered. But in this movie, when there's supposed to be emotional moments, it can be a little cheesy, of course, but they don't lean into it nearly as hard. And it feels like reactions that you could actually expect people to have in the situation. I'm just so glad that DC switched over to this individual movie thing. Sure, this one has potential ties to other DC properties. It has one very dramatic tie to other DC properties, which I'm not going to get into the spoils of because you should watch the movie. But it is its own entity, and it feels very contained. You don't think Batman's going to show up and save him at the last second. You don't wonder which Avenger is going to fly out of the sky and, ex machina the problem away. It is very much a self-contained entity. What I'm trying to say is this movie does everything that DC has been trying to build all in one movie. It has the reluctant hero. It has a hero that outright refuses to be a hero until circumstances dictate that they must. It has a hero that's flawed. It has a situation that seems somewhat grounded in reality, even though the characters in it couldn't be further from realistic. And what it does more than anything is it shows that what makes you whole on the inside, your relationships with your family and your friends, your relationship with yourself, are what makes you heroic. It's how you deal with the people around you. It's what you do for those around you, building up your community, not just punching through a building and bringing a giant donut out of the sky. You need to have stakes. There needs to be emotional weight in your decisions. You need to let things get their proper time to breathe. And this movie does all of that in spades. And that is why it is a near perfect movie with impeccable pacing and will be remembered as time goes on. This movie will be a template for future DC films, and I bet money that once the Marvel movies get out of Endgame and they don't know what to do with themselves, you'll see elements from this movie in those as well. And that is why Shazam is the best DC movie so far, and how it has perfected what I will now be dubbing the DC formula. That's all I got, man. It's like 2 a.m. and I'm just rambling at this point. So if you liked what you saw here, feel free to let me know. Hit that thumbs up button. Throw me a comment. What do you think about the DC formula? Do you think that was accurate? Do you think that the DC formula is a different thing entirely? If you like what you saw here, you could go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I make all types of videos like this, and now that we seem to be getting back into the swing of things with the blockbuster movie season, this type of video is probably going to be coming up more often, especially once Young Justice comes back onto the DC Universe app. Glad to be back doing this again, and you Voiders, stay beautiful.